Okay, guys, welcome to episode 6. This is our final episode of season 3. Then we're going to take a little break once the gym opens, and then we'll come back to you guys. But this whole season's been really gearing you up to returning back to the gym, training smart, and just being a little bit safe as we come out of this lockdown and start training more resistance training side of things. But today we're going to talk about a very important subject, and to be honest, if I'm totally honest, a subject that probably Danny and I have very little, if any, knowledge about. But don't worry, guys, you're in safe hands, because we've got Donna. Donna's with us today, and she's going to really help you out. And we think this is going to be beneficial for not just the female athletes that listen, but the guys as well. So yeah, I'm Ray Farrow.
And I'm Danny Hayter. Welcome to the Legion Report podcast. And today we have Donna Pavitt with us. Hi Donna, how are you?
Hello, yeah, all good. Thank you. Excited about today, what we're going to chat about.
Yeah, so it's a really interesting subject. And as Ray mentioned, we have very little knowledge, and we're certainly going to be leaning on you heavily over the course of this podcast. And we're so happy and glad that you've actually come on, because it is a very important subject. And I think it's going to be even more important now as we start to move into, throughout 2021 and people moving back into the gym environment. So before we get really sort of into the deep knowledge and the sciencey bits, if you like, let's can we have just a quick intro into who you are, so the guys and the girls know exactly who you are, what you do. It's not like blind date, it's not who you are, where'd you come from, so just a little bit of an intro.
Yeah, no worries. So I've been into fitness. Well, I started training in gyms when I was like 14, 15, started dieting when I was about 13. So like my whole life has been around mainly about weight loss. And I did lose weight, so I then became a personal trainer and got into the fitness industry. But it's kind of, my journey's evolved and my client base has evolved as I've gone through the stages. I've gone through it in the kind of, in your 20s, you can beast it in the gym, no rest days and constantly looking for fat loss, looking for weight loss. And now I've got like over 30, I'm like coming on 36. I've noticed there's like been a bit of a struggle with my own kind of training and gains. I reached like a burnout point where I just wasn't hitting it as hard in the gym as I could and like I mentally wanted to. And then when I was coaching my ladies, I noticed that they were having like hormonal issues as well. And some weeks where they would be like on top form and can just like go and do like HIIT training and lift the heavier kettlebells. And there's other weeks they were just like flatlined and we would have to do some stretch and mobility or just like a real gentle session. And it kind of got me thinking, and with my own journey as well, I was like, I got to the point, I was training in very male dominated gyms. Like I say, I've exercised my life, mainly strength training. And I was like in running clubs, I was in like little like triathlon groups. And then like going into the weightlifting world and something, and like CrossFit and stuff. And I was like really beating myself up on some days when I just needed rest. And then psychologically, if you've been in that and going from like, not like an athlete, but kind of like someone who's really into training, and we rarely have the rest days. And I never had rest at all. I would get anxious and twitchy if I ever had like, a week off the gym. Even when I went on holiday, I would like find the gym and just do some sort of training. And as my hormones kind of started to go a bit iffy, I was just like, like I say, just flatlined. There were some weeks I couldn't even get out of the door to do a training session. I would force myself to do it. Then I would get injured. Then I'd be like, what's going on? Why can't I do this? And 2 weeks later, I'm back in the gym lifting, like nothing was wrong. So yeah, it's that kind of got me into looking into the female cycle and hormonal cycle, just from how I've evolved in the industry, really.
Oh, that's good. That takes us straight into question one really. So my wife, she tends to feel really motivated, like a majority of the month, but there's a window where there's between 7 days and 10 days, like leading up to a cycle, is where she just feels demotivated, lack of energy. She just, you know, doesn't care what she's eating. She eats like where normally she would eat quite healthy. So yeah, she just. I'm sure there's other like your clients as well that literally probably go through this thing, and this is obviously really frustrating for her because obviously loses weight, then gains it over that 7 to 10 days leading up. So how do you know, obviously we spoke about it before. You've had dealt with this before, but how do people combat this? How do they not just end up in a vicious circle?
Yeah, so how I started, I have always, well, first of all, I was on like the contraceptive pill for about 20 years, I reckon. Gotta be. So I come off the pill probably 3-4 years ago, and then I started to use an app to track my kind of hormonal cycles because my kind of periods were just really irregular all over the place. So I was like, well, I want to get my body into how the hormones are meant to be, especially as I get into perimenopause. I want to know how my body functions. And so I started tracking on an app just the regularity of my periods. And then I noticed there was a cycle. So those 7 to 10 days, I noticed they were the days where I was kind of just had not a lot in the tank, and my appetite would be huge. And then when the menstruation would happen, the period happened, days leading after that, I was almost like could do like intermittent fasting. I was the appetite was just absolutely fine. I could go to the gym. So I would say first thing, track it and see when that 7 to 10 days start. And we've got different stages of the hormonal cycle. So it's usually about 28 to 32 days. Some women who do a lot of training and athletes, it can go up to 40 days. So that's why it's important for each individual to track. And first of all, we've got the stage where the hormones are kind of building up to the ovulation, where the egg is released. And then the hormones will kind of dip back down as we menstruate. So that second kind of section where your body struggles is the point where you're almost like leading up to if you don't have your period, you're going to be pregnant. So your body's going to hold on to every bit of everything it wants. The metabolism is just going to dip slightly. So we can get away with eating it's about 15 to 16% more calories. So about 100 to 120 calories a day extra we need in that week before our period. Okay. So when I started to understand that, I was thinking, okay, I don't have to sit and eat loads of food and like, you know, you can control your appetite a bit, because if it's a mindset shift. So if you know, right, 7 days for my period, I know I can eat an extra 100 calories a day, and then you won't overeat too much because you've allowed that. Yeah. Also, when it comes to the training, that is the point where you would need your deload week. Now, this sounds completely like, to me, I was like, you're telling me I've got to eat more calories and rest. You know, it just sounds really backwards. But to heal your hormones and then go into the next phase of your cycle, you're going to make them gains on that first week after your period, because you've had your deload week. You've eaten better food than not just sitting and eating ice cream, pizzas, chocolates, because you can have that mindset to allow you to have a better diet. But we can delve into that food later on if you want to. I don't want to kind of complicate for you two things with training and food.
Yeah, I just want to touch on that just a minute ago, because obviously I was explaining this to my wife. Not like, so a lot of women just tend to, and not as blokes as well, not just saying women, I better get in there quickly. No, so they don't periodize their training unless they go to a strength conditioning gym or something like that. So their training is pretty much the same all the way through. Like maybe they run 5 miles every day, for instance. And what they got to realize is, like what you just said, then they're going to have a week where the training dips. So that's probably a good time to do, you know, I'm just trying to explain the basics of.
Yeah.
The periodization should be, they should be inclined as the weeks go up. Maybe we normally hit a peak at week 3 and then drop down to week 4 for a deload to rest and recover and then come back up again. But they should probably maybe do it, time it for that cycle.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So those weeks, when obviously this past year, I haven't been to a gym, so I've got like my little home set up. But those weeks when I started to track, so I used myself as guinea pig, and then I introduced it to my one-to-one clients as well. And the weeks where I needed that deload week and I would try and push it, I would then get really disheartened and be like, why can't I, do 20 thrusters with my 20 kilogram bar, but then 2 weeks later I can do it with 25 kilograms and do 25 thrusters, So it's when you start tracking on an app. So the apps you can use there's an app called Flow, there's an app called Clue, and apparently the Fitbit can do it as well, but I've not looked into that one. Okay. You can then schedule your personal deload week. Now on that deload week, because we love training and we love to move, I mean, I'm talking about people in the strength and conditioning world. Yeah. We can then do a bit of yoga, a bit of Pilates, go for a steady jog if you're feeling up to it, or a power walk, and work on your things you struggle with. So, so a little bit of technique work just with like the real lightweight. Don't have too much expectations, so then you beat yourself up. Because if you imagine a beginner coming in to a gym and they go to a gym on that deload week, especially, and they're like, oh, I didn't enjoy it, I had no energy, they're not going to go back 2-3 weeks later because they didn't enjoy that first part. Yeah. So someone coming back into this post-COVID, try and track your cycle and get into the gym on your kind of day 3 to 4 after your period. You're going to have the most energy. Okay.
I think that's really, really important for us as male coaches as well to understand that. Yeah. So if there is guys listening out there, like I said before, it is beneficial for everyone, male and female, this as well, because this is stuff that we don't take, obviously don't not aware of, shall I say.
And I wasn't aware of it as well. Like I say, in my 20s, I used to coach people and be like, come on, like go all the time. And even myself, get in the gym like twice a day and push it. Yeah. And it just, and it stalls your weight loss as well, Is
it more so, this sort of effect, is it more so as you go into your 30s, like you said before? Is it, you don't necessarily feel that when you're younger?
I think so. And I also think when you're on the contraceptive pill, it kind of just like gets your hormones in a steady balance. So I don't know if it is because now I'm coming up to 36. Apparently my mum went through the perimenopause at about 40, so I haven't got long left. But I notice, I've gone through stages of my fitness where my periods have stopped because I've overtrained, which is really bad, really bad. So when I was 30, I was doing loads of training, wanted to get the smallest I could be. I was eating ridiculously low calories, basically burnt myself out to look a certain way, but my period stopped for 3-4 months. So that's not healthy. It happened again this time last year because I was going through a really stressful time in my life, and my period stopped for like 2-3 months. And that's when I started to delve into this training around my menstruation cycle and looking at the science behind it. So on those deloads weeks, what I will say to women listening to this, don't be scared of food. Don't be scared of the carbohydrates. We need it for our body, and you won't gain weight if you're sensible with it.
Yeah, that's really good advice. I mean, the we always say in our previous podcasts, and even when we coach our own clients and in the gym, is that sleep is a really important factor. And that was sort of going to lead on to my next question, and is sort of around, how does this affect your sleep, and is there any effect to your sleep? So I know my wife struggles sometimes with sleep, and she'd sometimes be like really hot, so really warm, and that would always affect her sleep. And I just wondered if that's another almost wouldn't say symptom, because it's not an illness, but if you know
It's
what I mean.
effect, yeah, and it's usually the week before. Again, it's this horrible week before the period. It usually happens about 4 or 5 days before you have your period, that your natural kind of thermostat in your body will get higher. So you will be burning more calories, hence you need that extra calories. Just because we're naturally hotter, progesterone goes down at that point. So we need to, let me just check that actually. I think I am right. But yeah, there's an inflammatory response with the hormone imbalance. So it basically causes the body to hold on to get rid of the salt, and it gets rid of that through sweat. So you have night sweats. And then anyone going through perimenopause, night sweats become more regular, and that's when you know you've got an imbalance in your hormones.
Would you suggest, if there's an imbalance, that there's you need to go and seek any sort of help, or would you just be looking back again at things like, how am I training, how am I eating, or would it be more of a professional response that you'd require?
Yeah, if they're really like irregular, and if you notice there's any irregularity, then definitely go and see a doctor. They can do some blood tests, or you can pay privately for some tests as well. There's a test called a Dutch test, which you can get. But look at lifestyle, like you said, sleep. Like, it works wonders for everything, especially the recovery. And there's that week before where you're going to have the sleep's going to be all over the place, intermittent with the sleep at night. You're going to have night sweats. I mean, I'll be honest here, I don't know how many other women who will listen to this can relate, but the sort of 2-3 nights before my period, I literally have to get up and change my pajamas and stuff, because I'm just like soaked. And that, when I notice that, I think, why am I stressed? And if I can lower an element of stress in my life, the month later, there will be less of a night sweat. It might only last one night. Okay. So it does come down to like the lifestyle. And if you're getting enough salt in your diet that week before, and looking at your omega-3s the week before, make sure you're getting enough protein, looking after your gut health. It is literally like, sounds like a full-time job, but if you make the small changes, but 100% sleep will cure a lot of things, especially any stress response in life, really.
I think the nice thing about that is that there is the ability to be accountable, and make sure that you're doing the right things. And I think there might be people out there that just go, I don't know where to start. I don't know why this is happening. Same with the training side of it that you mentioned at the beginning there about, why am I weaker here? Why am I stronger there? I don't understand it. And I think it's almost, you're almost highlighting the reason why we've come on today. I was going to ask a little bit, just while we stick with sleep and nutrition, is sort of, you mentioned there omega-3. Is supplementation something that would help, or is it just purely supplementation if you're not able, just like we do with all supplements really? But is there anything that you think, well, actually that would help leading in, or that would help overall from a supplement perspective?
I would say try and I like to do more of a holistic approach. So I like to try and get mine through my diet. I noticed that I need a little bit more iron the week before. And that's not so much because we're looking to have the bleed, so we lose iron as such. It's more to heal the gut, because we get that our body like inflames, because everything around the kind of stomach and the womb is kind of inflamed. So that's so close to our gut. So if we can look after the gut health, that will absorb every bit of micronutrients. So if you can get your iron in, and I started to look at pulses and beans mixed with like some vitamin C, so some green leafy veg, so lentils, your refried beans. I was looking at plant-based iron, so it can absorb into the gut better. You can take an iron supplement, but if you take, I just find if I take an iron supplement, it can make me a bit like clogged up in my gut. And that's quite a common reaction if you take like a tablet. So try and get it through food, and try and mix your vitamin C, kind of green leafy vegetables, the vitamin B from the vegetables, with the beans, the lentils, or even your meat, your salmon, your chicken. but try and go more plant-based just for the absorption in the gut. That's what I done. And I noticed when I do that, I get less period pains and I've got more energy leading into that first week because all of those foods have got carbohydrates in. So it's almost like doing a two-way thing, really. It's not doing any harm. So iron, your sodium, keep on track with that, especially if you're sweating. And your like B12, B vitamins and folate as well, which is closely linked to the iron. Yeah. But if you can get it through the diet, like I say, I'm more of a holistic. I'd like to get it more through food because we all love eating. I love eating.
Definitely.
Oh, and I will add, sorry, on that week before, because you're not training as much and going to the gym, you've almost got that extra little 45 minutes you can spend in the kitchen looking at nutrition and doing a bit of cooking. That's what I've done with my time.
To keep yourself busy.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So coming out of that cycle now, then if they're worried about, so like we said before, about losing weight, if they end up like in this cycle where they're losing weight and then obviously going through those 7 to 10 days, they start to put that weight back on again. So when they're coming out, to counteract that, you know, they could probably drop their calories a bit leading out.
Yeah.
Like you say, using methods like intermittent fasting or just reducing their maybe the carbohydrates a little bit.
Definitely. Yeah, and that's it's kind of like, you know, we've all kind of heard like carb cycling and cycling your training, cycling your diet with how you're training. But this is like, I did see in some studies that the cycle for a woman is 28 to 32 days. And apparently the 24-hour clock, what a man goes through in 24 hours, we go through in that 28-day cycle. So that like blew my mind. So I was just like, I expect to go to the gym and I expect to lift the same thing every single day of the month, every single month. And that's how I used to train. And if I didn't hit that, I would just be really kind of, you know, pissed off. Like, why am I not doing it? Yeah. So if you, and then holding on to the weight. So like you said, you would feel really good up to week 3. Then week 4, you want to eat everything. You haven't got the energy. So if you, that week, if you can kind of accept to take your rest, because you're not as stressed through the training, your appetite won't increase overly, you know, too much, because we know that training causes a stress response, can lead to the appetite increasing and ramping up. As long as you're getting consistent protein, so make sure you are getting like some form of protein with each meal before you lead up to your period, that will help you keep your stomach kind of like full. Make sure you're getting your fiber in and have the small bit of treat, but just really key into the nutrition so you don't binge out and think, sod it, I feel like rubbish, I'm just going to eat whatever. And it's trial and error, really is.
I was just going to ask a bit about, I think you mentioned it at the start, about more injury prone. Is that right? And again, it almost leads to everything. It connects quite nicely, doesn't it? The dots all connect up. So would you say that, again, in that rest period that you said about, you know, not only is it good because if you can accept that rest period, it takes that stress away straight away, but then also you can also protect yourself because you are a little bit more prone to injury. Is that sort of?
Yeah, now there's a tricky one, because the way the hormones are, the way the hormones are, when we lead up to ovulation, we're pretty much prepping up the egg. So if like, I don't know about you, Danny, but I know Ray's got like kids, so you've gone through the whole pregnancy kind of journey. But after pregnancy, the female body has got more elasticity through the joints. So as we lead up to ovulation, it's that week, so the second week of the cycle, where there's more elasticity in the joints. So not only you can lift more, but you just want to be careful of your technique. So good technique leading pretty much throughout is what we coach, but really focus on your technique and try not to kind of go crazy, slow it down, get your 6 to 8 reps, build up the strength. And then what I'll do in a minute, I'll do a brief through of each phase because it might just sound quite complicated. And then after you've done your like round ovulation, that's when you can do loads of HIIT stuff and kind of really go for your long runs, do some interval training. So yeah, the way the hormones go, the injury is more common the week leading up to ovulation, just so how our joints are.
Okay, well, that's really interesting. Really interesting.
Yeah,
it sounds really technical, but you don't have to overcomplicate it. It's just because I've done the research on it, you know.
I think it helps with us again, not just because we're male coaches, but I think, you know, and we certainly wouldn't, you know, we don't sit and try and, you know, eke these sort of conversations out with any of our female clients, but it just makes us aware. And it just makes us, you know, it allows us to understand that actually if people need to take a step back, then we totally get it. We've never really been the type of people, and you know, I think Ray agrees that we've never been the type of people that will ultimately push people to their limit if they don't need to be, if that makes sense. Like if they do need to take a step back, we're quite happy to go, do you know what, that's a really good idea, or, you know, we advise it as well. So yeah, it's really super useful for us as male coaches to understand that and how it works.
And that's what I like about like Southern Legion, really, because where obviously I trained there like pre-COVID and for a few years, like it's just a nice environment where you can go and feel comfortable, especially as a female as well, because you're not just like beasted. It's not just like, you know, go all the time. You've got the points where you do have to push us, of course, but it's just a nice environment. You know, there's like, I used to go to the lunchtime class and us women just used to chat and everything. But I just want to like put it out there that we just need food. Like, even though, because there's conversations in every gym, and even when you go out for drinks, you know, like pre-COVID or meals, us women, I don't know if the guys are the same, but we're always on a diet. And I think going into building strength and building muscle, you've got to key into what the outcome is. What is your goal? Do you want to restrict your calories and lose weight, lose fat loss, or do you want to eat but build strength? Does that make sense?
Yeah. While we're on that subject, because I know we probably grabbed a lot of female attention, maybe for listening in. What I would like you just to mention is how beneficial resistance training is.
100%.
You know what I mean? To fat loss as well. If they're like, I think what women, not the ones, mainly the ones that come to ours because they understand a bit more. We get coached, but maybe some women are you know, just listening in. They're worried about putting size on, like getting muscly. And if you speak to a bloke, it takes bloody years to put any muscle on. So I think that needs to be sort of like addressed as well by someone like yourself.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. And also for our bone, as we go into menopause, bone density goes down as well. So if you can keep strong, and you don't have to go and lift like loads and loads, but even just like using a smaller weight, long as you're going through like those squats and doing the technique, building up the shoulders, working on your posture, all with strength training, like you say, that's going to help hugely with fat loss. Like, I mean, I was doing hours of cardio, hours and hours in my like 20s, just the desire to lose weight, and it burnt me out. It stopped my periods. It didn't get me anywhere because it raised my cortisol, and I just held on to every bit of fat because my body was just stressed. Flip it into weight training and building muscle, building strength, you can definitely lose. Yeah, definitely. You don't need to be doing hours of cardio. Just go and lift.
In a short period, can't you?
Yeah. Oh yeah, like when you got your WODs and stuff, definitely. Like, I mean, probably 30-40 minutes. If you go over 40 minutes, you need to be fueling your workout. Otherwise you're just gonna get injured. You're gonna feel, you know, really tired. There's some reports to say that women can do like 2 days of intensity training but then need 2 days off, whereas guys can do 3 or 4 days intense, have 1 day off. So there's a massive shift there with that rest periods.
That's really interesting, actually. I think there's we might slip slightly off topic here, but I think there's a bit of a mindset as well when it comes to female training. You know, I've been around females that, you know, say take example, my wife that maybe won't train for, she's been injured recently, and she didn't train for a real long period of time, and she quite noticeably, she, you know, it's quite noticeable the fact that she said, you know, I'm not happy, you know, I'm losing muscle where I don't want to. But she'd see her friends and they'd be going, oh my God, you look amazing. Look how much, you know, weight you've lost. And I think, you know, she would be coming back going, well, I don't want to lose that type of weight. And obviously it's a mindset and there's a difference. But I do think, like you said there, is you mentioned it when people get together, and I don't really think it is a male thing. I think it is a female thing, where you said there, you're always on a diet. Everyone's sort of saying how well you look. Do you look at this? You know, how much weight have you lost? I've lost this. I've done this diet the other day. I ate less. You know, and I think it is very much a mindset thing. And I just think there might need to be a little bit more of a shift, and not be afraid to go and maybe lift a little bit more weight and take a little bit of a step back from the weight loss type environment. So that was just, it might be slightly off topic, but that was just my sort of thought on that.
Oh, 100%. Couldn't agree more, because like I get really uptight when people go, oh, Donna, you look like you've lost weight, or you look wow. And I'm like, yeah, it just triggers me, because I'm like, I'm more than how I look. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I don't diet anymore. I've gone through real phases in my life where I've been like really compulsive with my movement, and like I said, just not eating enough food, and all for weight loss. And the only place it got me was just burning out, you know. And what's the point? So, and I love eating and I love training. So why can't I train to build strength? Not to look a certain way, just to feel good, and eat because I love food. You know, and it's very, I think the social media, and again, we're going off topic, but like social media has got like loads to kind of answer for when it comes to how you look. And to be honest with you, coming out of lockdown and going back into like, I wouldn't go back into a commercial gym, and like nothing against them, but it does give me a bit of anxiety, because, you know, and I think if I was a beginner, I would be if I've got anxiety and I'm someone who's trained all my life, how does a beginner feel going back into a gym? Because social media makes it look like you've got to have like the matching gym wear, you've got to look a certain way. And when I started training, I would just like go into the gym with like no makeup, just wear whatever, you know, old t-shirt and stuff. But how the fitness industry has evolved, it is all about weight loss, and it really just gets to me, because we're more than just our bodies.
Yeah, well said.
Yeah, well said, definitely. Yeah, I totally agree.
And then it comes down to this, like health. Why are we training? It's because we want to be healthy, you know. And what are we if we haven't got our health?
That's the most important thing, is it? And I think hopefully, like, one good thing comes out of COVID is, we've said this in quite a few podcasts now, is that your health is the number one priority, and that's what we should be looking out for and looking after the most, investing in, and everything else can be, you know, can come afterwards.
And enjoying yourself as well, like, you know, life's just, yeah, you know, go out for a meal and eat the bread. Because eat that bread, it gives you fuel to go and train, you know.
Exactly.
Just one on that, just the phases you were talking about. If you could just briefly go through those, just briefly go through those so that people can have a bit of an understanding.
Let's get back on topic. Right, so first of all, you've got your menstruation. So that's like if anyone is looking to start track from the first day that you bleed. So that is day 1. That can last up to 5-7 days. And then, but everyone's different. You know, some women only bleed for 2 days. See how you're feeling. So it's going to be, like I say, trial and error for the first couple of months, and you will notice a cycle. Some women on day 1 have got terrible cramps. They are just really fatigued. Whereas some women are absolutely fine. They can go and lift and train and feel great. So it's all individual. So just make sure you're tracking. So the hormones are kind of at the lowest at this point. And then we go into the follicular stage. So the hormones will gradually come up to the ovulation. So when the egg is produced. And now this is the time where you can do your strength training, because the hormones are low, but they gradually come up. So you can just get your strength training in, work on your technique, do like your, 8 reps, low reps, high weight. And then as you build up to ovulation, get your HIIT training in, go for a long run, go for a long ride, whatever you're into. And then post ovulation, the hormones will then kind of gradually kind of wave down. But this is the point where you will need the mobility work. You're going to feel a little bit flatlined. You're going to be like sluggish. You're going to hold on to water retention. The body is inflamed because we're ready to release the egg. So that's your luteal stage. And that is the key point of that deload week, just before your period. So ovulation is around about 14 days into it. So we've got day 1, day 14, and then as it comes down, you're looking around about day 28 when you would have your period again.
And you say 2 or 3 days after that, you're ready to go back into
ready to go again. Get in the gym, go lift. Okay. And then keep an eye on your appetite. And the key thing with nutrition, like what we all say, what we all promote, is just make sure you're eating protein after you've trained. You're fueling your body, and going by how you're feeling. So if there's anyone out there doing like intermittent fasting, really see if it's giving you enough energy. If not, what I started to do, I started to have like half a protein shake in with my coffee, not a protein shake, a protein scoop in with my morning coffee before I would go and train. And that would just, so what I'd do is I'd just get a bit of water and half a scoop, like shake it up in my shaker. As my coffee's coming through on the machine, I would just pour it in. So it makes like a frothy protein coffee. But that would give my,
I've learned a lot today, but I think I'm going to take away that one.
And then sometimes I've got like a bit. But that's like, I found that quite a nice like pre-workout, because especially if you're training in the morning, the cortisol levels are already quite high, and we're going to be going into a bit of a stress response because we're doing some training. So we want to have a little bit of protein in, fuel the body slightly to lower the cortisol, get your blood sugar levels steady, so then when you lift, it's not going to cause an over stress on your system.
That's good.
Right. Brilliant.
Yeah, I think that's really understandable. The other one I was going to mention, sorry, Daniel, jumping in on you, was the menopause. We spoke about it just before. So we have some of our senior members going
But it doesn't matter. We can go through the menopause at any stage. Going
through the menopause. So so what? One for us, one for them listening, some advice for them, and one for us really, how we approach those and how we deal with them. From
the knowledge that what I've been doing so far, I've been looking at the pre-perimenopausal, like where kind of I am at the moment. Then I've been looking into the perimenopausal, because that's where the majority of my one-to-one ladies are. And when you haven't had your period for 12 months, that's when you hit menopause. Now, it can be really awful, and I'm really worried how it's going to be for myself. That's why I'm looking into it now, so I can try and keep on track with it.
Yeah.
But I haven't done a lot of studies on it, but the hormones can kind of balance out. But you may need a hormone replacement. So go to your doctor, go to see medical advice to check how your hormones are feeling. But I will say, when it gets to that stage, what I've noticed, what I've looked at, the intensity of your training when you're going through perimenopause into menopause really wants to be lower. So really lower the overly intense HIIT training. You still can lift, still do steady state, still do loads of mobility work, lifestyle, like what Danny said, work on the sleep, work on your gut health, work on your nutrition, really key into it. and still track how you're feeling each and every month when you're going through the menopause, because you still got some hormones in there that can have these effects on the good weeks you're feeling good, the weeks you're feeling flat. But post-menopause, or when you're going through the menopause, just get it checked out with a more kind of specialist kind of coach or doctor.
Yeah, I think it also is like what you said before, is again listening to your body. And those days when you do feel low, lack of energy, is to just, if you are going in the gym, just go in the gym and move, and don't put too much pressure on yourself. I've seen that a lot sometimes where the girls are putting pressure on themselves because they're not firing on all cylinders.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like you say, don't put the pressure on. You're going through a lot hormonally, so just take a step back and just move if you have to, or take your day off.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that. Embrace the day off. Like, embrace sitting on the sofa watching Netflix.
Yeah.
Because your body's telling you it needs something. And just think, after you've had that rest, how much stronger you're going to be, rather than pushing yourself to get to the gym. Then you might get injured. You're just going to feel more fatigued. You're then going to get more hungry because you stressed your body out even more. So you're going to eat more. Whereas really, you should have just rested,
Yeah. Embraced it. Yeah.
Yeah. And it, like you say, it's a mindset shift, because I struggled with it so much. I used to hate resting. But now I think, right, it's an acceptance. Accept your body needs rest. We can build more fitness and strength on our rest days as our body recovers, and eat.
We've spoken about
that goes out to the women out there. Like, we're so obsessed with getting in a smaller body or restricting the calories. And I'm just worried when we come out of COVID and go back to training, we're going to get back into that. Some women might get to that obsession that they want to eat less, they want to move more. Whereas some weeks we need to eat more and move less, and you won't gain weight if you do it in a smart way.
Yeah, I think especially going into the remainder of this year and going back into that gym environment, I think people are going to want to, they're going to want to hit, whether you're male or female, actually, this just doesn't matter. I think they're going to want to try and get to, I want to get back to where I was pre-COVID. I want to get back to my fitness levels, my strength levels. And you really do need to take a step back and just really ease yourselves in. I think this goes out to everybody. Just make sure that you're easing yourself in nice and slow, rather than, like you said there, Donna, going in, trying to train, every single day. The gyms are open, right? I'm going to set my calories at 1200, and I'm going to train every single day because I really want to get back to where I was 12 months ago. You just take a step back and just ease yourself in, and I think that's where you're going to get a much better response.
And that's what this whole season's been about, isn't it? Like, taking a smarter route, understanding, just gradually building your training sessions up progressively, and training smart. That's our biggest thing for this one, isn't it?
Yeah, couldn't agree more. And with that 1200 calorie thing that's put out there, that's really what a toddler needs to eat. It's just insane. And then the media puts out there that women need to be on 1200 calories. I mean, I don't, like I say, I'm not tracking anymore, but I would have a guess. I'm having over 2000 calories a day at the moment, and I'm not training that intensely. I'm just moving, and I've lost muscle like we all have this year, but I haven't gained loads of weight, which, because I'm looking after my body, I'm giving it what it needs.
Yeah. I think that's a really good place to wrap up. I think that's ended our season perfectly. So yeah, Donna, brilliant, absolutely amazing. I think
I'll recommend a couple of books just before we log off. There's one, Dr. Stacey Sims, who she's got a book out called Raw, and she delves into more of the science behind it. So if anyone wants to look into it a bit more. And there's also a book called In the Flow, which is on audio, which again, that goes more into female lifestyle as well, about how you can actually do your work around it as well. So the weeks when you're feeling mentally on top form, so you can be more productive with work. So it's not just training. It looks into a bit of more of the diet and nutrition. And Renee McGregor on Instagram, she's really good if anyone has suffered with like eating disorders and in the athletic world. So she really promotes eating to fuel your body, and taking those rest weeks.
Yeah, it's good. Also, Donna, your own Instagram and
I was going to say that.
Facebook. Yes.
Yeah. So it's just Donna _ health and wellbeing PT on Instagram, and I like to focus more on the holistic side. So there is a little series, if you look on my highlight reel at the top, where it delves into the hormones, so you can go back and check out the hormone information I've got. But I look at the gut health and sleep, the micro nutrition in regards to holistic health and healing your body, really.
Okay, that's brilliant.
Perfect.
Yeah, it's been a good season, Danny. We've really enjoyed it, haven't we? And like you say, this one now finishes on a really, really important subject, and something like most guys don't understand it. Hopefully this has helped guys as well as the female listeners. I know I've certainly learned a lot just on this episode, and it helped me as well going forward coaching, and that's what
Yeah, definitely. But I'll come to Summer Legion, they'd be bored of like women's hormones. You'll be, when you're doing the check-ins at the beginning, you'll be like, right, what phase are you in?
So it's on day 7.
You can't lift.
Yes. Go over there, do your mobility. I will say as well, if you want, I can give you a link to like a download. So if anyone wants to have a download of what I've created of like the weeks and the cycle, I can give that to you guys, so any listeners can download that.
Yeah,
we can share that. Perfect. Well, there we go. That's our end of season 6. Season 3. And we look forward to coming back in season 4. But at this point, the gyms will be open, so we'll be back to training in the gym, and we're going to talk to some various individuals around training, PTing, and different types of coaching styles again. And then also we're going to have some real people, real stories on the Lead Report podcast. So Donna, thank you again for coming on. Guys, thank you for listening through lockdown. Enjoy getting back into the gym environment. Take it steady and enjoy it. And we'll see you on season 4.
Yes, guys. Thank you very much. Stay safe. Bye.
See you later. Bye.